welcome back to our roundtable. In this last hour, we'll have, I believe, a very vivid discussion with a few guests that agreed to join us today and exchange their views on the quality of life, on the measurement of the quality of life, and the use of these measurements in the planning, but also in designing other development policies. I have four guests with me in this hour. These are Janja Pečar from the Institute of Macroeconomic Analysis and Development from Slovenia, Maja Simonetti from IPOP, Institute for Politics of Space from Slovenia, Teja Podobnik from the City Municipality of Nova Gorica, and Carlo Sessa. You have met Carlo before. May I just check right now if I have all the four speakers with me? Can you just say yes or no? Janja, Maja, Teja, and Carlo.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Janja is here.
Okay, thank you very much. It's actually a bit strange to have roundtables like that, but okay, we are more or less used to this now. We'll have a bit more open discussion, so there is going to be more room also for your questions. So please don't hesitate if you have any questions for our guests, to just put in the chat or raise your hand, and yeah, I will also try to pick up one or two questions from the morning sessions to provide some answers to that. Okay, at the beginning, I would just like to shortly introduce my guest. I said Janja Pečar. She's a geographer and sociologist, and she's working for the Institute of Macroeconomic Analysis and Development in Slovenia. She's an expert in working in the fields of regional and spatial development, housing, and is an author of several reports and articles about the state of regional development in Slovenia. She was also a chair of a board for regional statistics at the National Statistical Office in Slovenia for some time. Our next guest is Maja Simonetti. She's a landscape architect and spatial planner. Her main interests are participation to the public to the different spatial planning processes, placemaking, sustainable urban development. She's an expert on green space planning and management, and also on spatial literacy. She's working a lot with, let's say, with the local communities in different actions for improving the quality of the urban and of the urban environment. Teja Podobnik, she's coming from the City Municipality of Nova Gorica. She's an economist by education. She's a great expert in the different development projects, and she also has a great experience with working with the EGTC Go. So this cross-border EGTC cooperation between Nova Gorica and Gorica. You met Carlo Sessa before. She's a research director of the Institute of Studies for the Integration of Systems in Rome, and he's an expert in the fields of transport, energy, environment, and urban government issues. He was acting as a project coordinator in the ESPON Quality of Life project, the project that we are discussing about today. Well, for the beginning, and maybe just to break up the ice, I'd say that the concept of quality of life, it's very much based actually on our individual understanding of life and of our needs and of our beliefs as well. And what I find really very great in this project, that actually the concept developed has added this personal attitude to a more classical understanding of the territory as a kind of integrated relation between society, economy, and the environment. For this reason, I would like to ask all four of my guests maybe to share with us their experience, but also their expectations as individuals. What is in their mind? What is in their heads? The meaning of the territorial quality of life, and what kinds of elements of the territory they can highlight is important for them as a persons, as a citizens, as a residents in their cities and settlements. Maybe I try to start with Maya. Maya.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for asking the question. It's like really interesting question, and it's difficult to answer just like very personal because you're sort of, you know, infected by your profession. But anyway, yeah, I would first say it's housing. How you live. Home would be the first thing you think about when you are talking about quality of life. But then the second, or even when I was thinking, not very personally, but going around, the first thing for me would be public space. So public open space would be the first thing. I can read the structure of a city, and I can read how the quality of life is set. And next to the public space, of course, public green spaces. And here, related to this, there are safety, maintenance, usability, and design. So all these perspectives of being in public space. Next to this, there would be people in public space, how they, you know, move around, how they use it, how they are present, the ballet of streets, how it's going on. So do you feel safe, and are they there? Are there any community connections and so on? And of course, related to the streets, there is mobility or transport. The patterns of transport are also very important. So how you can move around, and services. There are services. So how close they are to my home, how comfortable my everyday life can be, because I have everything like by my hand. That would be my perspective. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maya. I was suspecting that a little bit, you know, by knowing you that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's also for me. I would say this is a really very important issue, and yeah, thank you for putting housing forward. I think that especially in this moment that we are facing in entire Europe, I would say a huge housing crisis. I think that it's really important to put this notion forward. Janja, may I ask you to be the next one?
Yes, thank you for the question. And well, my understanding of quality of life, well, I think that this is a very multidimensional concept which includes different aspects of human life. It involves accessibility, availability, affordability of different domains, areas such as housing, as you said, you mentioned public services, work, education, health, environment, and so on. But quality of life is also a matter of personal sphere, as we heard, personal attitude to all these aspects. And it is also a matter how a person can live, can function, and prosper in a society, environment, space, and so on. So this is a very complex concept with social, economic, environmental, and personal aspects. But for me personally, if I look in from my perspective, I think for me it's very important to have a green area around my home and to have good accessibility to the health services, good transport accessibility. I prefer living in rural areas than in urban areas, and I think that I would never move to the metropolitan area. That's my view.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much, Janja. Yeah, for many Slovenians, this living in the green areas, it's a very important, let's say, value of they're very important personal value. Here, maybe I'll just go just say something. In some years ago, we have made an order, a kind of a public sort of a public opinion, and it was done by the faculty of for social sciences. And in that public opinion survey, it was really very remarkable how much the Slovenians value actually this living close to nature, and they value this that much that we somehow as a nation, I would say, we mixed up living in the nation with living with the nation, living in the nature with living with the nature, and somehow I think that sometimes this is really something that's also endangering our way of life, might be something that's endangering the quality of our environment. Yeah, but now I would like to give a floor to Thea. Thea, do you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Eva, who presented our territory very well, and also the important EGTC. From my personal perspective, the thing that is important for the whole territory is the possibility of finding the job, because of employment, which is obviously directly connected to the economy. Because our territory became, let's say, 15 years ago, a very marginal territory, because it was developed as the economy was based on the border. And so when the border wasn't there anymore, a lot of economy activities were shut down, and a lot of the unemployment rate really was higher. So this is something that should be the basis of the quality of life. The next thing, of course, is housing. I think that this is the issue of all the territories. There is also something that we lack here in our territory, and this is the sustainable mobility. For example, the connection, there is almost no connection between the two cities. It is impossible to take a bus and get on the bus on the Italian railway station and come to the Slovenian railway station, which is something really strange for people that come to our territory. But we with our EGTC Go, of course, we have a lot of plans, and I'm sure that we'll manage to resolve these obstacles.
Thank you very much, Thea, for this. Well, the border is often understood as a kind of an obstacle. I think that we don't thinking enough. That the border can also be an opportunity. But can you say it's I know it's a very specific situation in the now Gorica and Gorica being a twin city, but do you actually see this, let's say, the proximity of a border or having a border as also as an opportunity to improve the quality, let's say, of living in the both cities?
Yes, of course, because as you know, and all the marginal cities are aware that the centralistic system exists. So we are very far from Ljubljana, and we have to take care of ourselves. So in the same situation is in Gorica, because they have Trieste, which is the center of the Friuli Venezia Giulia, and also not to mention Rome, which is really far away. So in order to develop our territory, to be progressive, let's say, we have to act together as a whole territory, because historically we are the same territory. In spite of the border, we were together, and this is we see, at least I see it, because I work in this field and I have to see it like that. The border is strengthened for us. Thanks God, or thanks European Commission and Europe, we have this instrument EGTC and a lot of other instruments that are made and created for these particular cases. So this is something that we are trying to do everything together, because otherwise it's difficult for a city on border to achieve these goals, and also it's almost impossible to stop at the border when you do something. So as I said, all plans for the future are made together. All the strategies are common strategies. And we are not only willing to cooperate, but we depend on each other, basically. So yes, this is the case here in our territory.
Yeah, thanks for that. But if you're combined, you look much bigger on the map.
Yes,
you know, in comparison
as
to other.
our director of EGTC usually say, and we repeat it every day, as single cities, we are at the margin of two countries. Together, we are in the center of Europe.
Okay,
So
that's good. Great to hear that.
Yes.
Yeah, and now I'd like to give a word to Carlo as well. Moving to Rome. So, Carlo, how do you feel about this the quality of life as a residents of such a big city as Rome is?
Carlo, microphone.
Sorry, I will tell you something about my personal experience now to answer to your question.
Because please do.
Yes, because I live at the center of Rome. Some years ago, I had the opportunity to buy a small house in the countryside near Rome, in the mountains, actually, 1 hour time. And I go there to simply to see the landscape and to see and to hear the birds. Okay. So I could say, but I live in a compact city in the center of Rome. Okay. Now I moved in a neighborhood within Rome, which is also well known in Italy because it's Garbatella. That is an area which is still with a lot of gardens, trees, and buildings. Okay, but it's in the center. And so for me, one very personal, but I think that could become general indicators of quality of life for me is when you hear the birds when you wake up in the morning, and not to see birds from that come here to take the waste, but birds that live on the trees around you. No? And this is possible also within the city, also within a compact city, because a compact city should also take care of the trees around the street, along the street, the trees in public gardens, all this kind of thing, the public space that was mentioned before. So my life changed because before I had really the need at the end of the week to go in the countryside. Now I have less the need because I live in an area in the city in which I can just walk to the public garden nearby. So this is a personal feeling, but it's also an answer to what was mentioned about the relationship between territorial quality of life and urban sprawl. It's not a matter for people be obliged to go in the countryside to take some environmental quality of life, but really to have in any territory the possibility to get some of these elements of quality of life. Okay, this is my personal input.
Thank you very much, Carla, and thank you also for this very interesting indicator that we could actually also quite easily, I would say, introduce into our different monitoring system. I was thinking about some other indicators some years ago, you know, how to monitor, let's say, the vitality of a city. And I said, if you see like children playing soccer on the streets, it's also could be an indicator of livability and you know, vitality of a certain place. But yeah, now let's move from this more, let's say, our personal sphere to the more to this planning, practice, and policy making. And I would ask you, Carla, and then also the Janja Pečar. How do you think the different aspects of the quality of life, also as addressed in this project, should or could be included into all policies, in particular sectoral policies or regional development policy?
If I may start, I think that the conceptual framework that we developed for measuring a territorial quality of life it was a difficult process. Jana can also tell you, because we had a lot of discussion for having that. But now the system of domains actually follow a logic that proved to be enough universal to be applied in different territories. And I think that the different domains cover actually can be used as an interface. The need of measuring those domains, link those domains to specific policies. For example, I will make an example. Thea just said that to have the possibility of having a job that corresponds to your aspiration. Actually, that is one of the elements of our flourishing dimension to be measured. And we have put in the good enablers pillar the presence in the territory of work opportunities, which means the possibility to have a job in the place in which you live. Okay, so this is a connection that we can do. So my proposal would be the efforts of measuring quality of life could be used as an interface for facilitating the coherence of the different sectoral policies that can use the indicator as monitor flag indicators, heading indicators, but then they have a much more specialistic information planning and so on and so forth. So this is my answer.
Thank you very much, Carlo. Janja, you're very experienced, let's say, in the monitoring and following the regional policy in regional development policy in Slovenia. How do you see this aspect of the quality of life could be included also this policy, maybe a bit more than it is today?
Okay. Thank you for the question. I think that I can agree with Carlo, but I would add something more. I think that the different aspects of quality of life should be included in all policies through strategic documents. In Slovenia, for example, we have the Slovenian Development Strategy 2030, which is a sort of umbrella strategy, a core strategy, and as such, it is the basis for all sectoral strategy. And the main objective of the Slovenian Development Strategy is a high quality of life for all. And because of the nature of quality of life concept, which is multidimensional one, it should be also connected with all other sectoral policies, as Carlo explained, and including in regional development policy. And in this programming period, the regional development policy in Slovenia has the same main goal as Slovenian development strategy, that is the improvement of quality of life in all the regions. And this objective should be included also in regional development plans as well, which are now in a process of preparation. And this is the connection on strategic documents between different sectors.
Let me just add that in this sense, I think that the Wales case study was really important for us to learn a lesson, because in Wales they have done this kind of, as you have seen, of institutional connection between well-being and several policies in a coherent way. And so it's an example of the kind of regional institutional approach that should be replicated in other parts of Europe. Harris actually was raising the hand.
Yeah, Carlo, thank you. Harris, can you want to intervene, please? The floor is yours.
Yeah, I wanted to supplement what Carlo said, that already in terms of planning, strategic planning documents, these are fully aligned with the quality of life policy, the legislation and the priorities set there, and objectives, the goals. So I'll mention 3 documents already 2018. The planning policy, Wales number 10 document is fully aligned. The draft National Development Framework 2019 and the World's Transport Appraisal Guidance 2017 in a separate evaluation that has been carried out by the planning professionals. These 3 have been singled out, showing that a fully aligned and fully embedded situation of quality of life into the planning system. Now, the Commissioner's report has also made very specific recommendations, not only the plans, it's how the different actors, categories of actor in planning can contribute. So the Commissioner's report separately has produced sections on what the Planning Directorate of the Welsh Government can do, should do, what the local planning authorities, which are the 22 local authorities, and what consultants and communities can do. 3 separate sets of recommendations, practical advice, as well as aligning the plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harris. I also think that when you talk about on the level of the let's say strategical policies, mostly they're aligned, but then we have let's say a bit of a bigger challenge when going to the implementation of different measures that would also at the end contributes towards the better quality of life for residents. But I'm going to use your input also to ask Maya Simonetti, who is an expert on the spatial planning. How do you see we could better embed the quality of life in the spatial planning instruments and practices? Can maybe this be better in, let's say, integrated into the plans by different process, by maybe increasing the participatory planning practices more, or there are some other issues that we should take into consideration?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's a very difficult one. I mean, the question, because you have to understand that related to what Janja Pečar said, how complex the concept of quality of life is, also the concept of spatial planning is quite a complex structure. So it's, you know, it's good to have in mind who are you addressing, who is there to act. And there are many actually actors involved. We can group them like really nicely, as Mr. Martinez said, but in fact, in practice, you would have like individuals, organized actors, sectorial policies, a diverse set of legislation involved. And what is most important today, when we are talking about, you know, how we can improve, I think we have to have in mind that spatial planning as a long-term activity is not very popular with the politics, meaning that they really don't wish to deal with anything that goes beyond their mandate. It's 4 years. And we know it's like actually 2.5 years, because so that's why we have this really close relation to projects, not to plans. And I think that's the main challenge. As soon as we as a society are going to change the perspective or manage to change the majority of the political perspective in the field that we do need planning, we need more planning, we need more regulation, not less, in favor of public benefits and you know, quality of life as one of, you know, head of it, we will be on a good path. And I wouldn't say that participation can solve this problem, but it can bring in new power so that the political actions can change. I think that it's really important that if we would be able to involve more of the people, you know, in service, but into the practice of planning as well, the importance of quality of life would, you know, get raise higher attention, and of course also the politics would get engaged in it and interested in, you know, in the indicators and how we are improving and so on. But now I'm not really very you know, I would say optimistic. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. I also agree with you that the planning is not really popular. Is in this long term thinking. It's often is seen as a barrier than really as a kind of opportunity. Yeah. And now I'd like to refer to you that there was this very interesting case study that done in the project about the Nova Gorica case. Can you say, are there any inspirations that can be taken out of this case and out of these projects, also for the area of the functional area of Nova Gorica, maybe also for the work that you're doing inside the EGTC and the cooperation between the cities, but also in the wider area.
Mm-hmm. For sure, I agree that this measurement quality of life is very important instrument, and it is not done in this area. So this is something that we should, particularly in all the Slovenia, not only on our territory. This is something that we should let's say legalize as it is organized in Wales or also in Italy. So this is the important issue. But let me say that we as EGTC, because today I'm representing the entire territory, always took in consideration the field. So we prepared all our strategies and projects bottom-up approach by creating task forces composed by representatives of the field of from different sectors. And so I can say that our strategies are always made like this, because you know that we are culturally very different. So it would be impossible to decision makers to create a strategy that would work for both sides. So this is the approach that we from the beginning was used. And also the European capital of culture, which we are together with Slovenia. We are the European, together with Gorica, we are the European capital of culture for the year 2025. It was also done like this. So in some kind of let's say measurement, there is some kind of measurement. So it is not, we are not totally apart from the territory, but as I said at the beginning, this is something that lacks in Slovenia, in Slovenia more than in Italy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Thea, and congratulations also for the being the European cultural capital.
Thank you.
Yeah.
This is a big success, I would say. For maybe I also have one more question for you, Maya. As now in this the beginning of this discussion, we're talking also quite some about the planning, and when we're talking about the planning, you also are talking at the end about the design, the urban design of our cities, and well, somehow we cannot as we are today on this virtual conference, with the reason we cannot somehow we cannot really escape, you know, the also discussion how this the current let's say pandemic crisis has affected our quality of life. So also as residents of cities or residents of maybe more rural areas. And I would ask you, from observing our everyday lives, what would be, let's say, some kind of lessons learned learned regarding the urban design, regarding the quality of the public spaces, regarding the green areas in the cities, accessibility to green areas that came out of this current situation.
Yeah, I think it's. Thank you, Tomasz. It's a very important question, and I think that probably everyone from us was involved in some kind of surveying the moment, because it's like so many things going on. Everybody is trying to understand the situation and, of course, to learn something out of it for future actions. And I would say that. There are probably three really important things. There is this one that I think that in the domain of home and housing, we can say that we found out that our apartments, at least I'm talking for Slovenia, are not adapted to this kind of life. So meaning working at home is something you need different kind of apartment. You need more space because you have to have like separate space for schooling, separate space for work, and separate space for being together and live everyday life, like, eating, sleeping, and so on. So too small apartments are too small and they are outdated actually. And also the second thing relating to housing is housing landscapes differ very much, meaning that a lot of housing, especially new housing, has not really good access to a very useful green and open space. Meaning that these people, especially older and kids, are deprived of very important, functions of being out together and being free and safe playing, like every day on a regular basis. And that's something we also have to have in mind and probably bring to higher awareness and involve in urban design. Then, of course, there is the quality of public open space related to this. If we are building new apartments without adequate new green and open areas, so we have like more people in the existing areas, which means we need more money to maintain, and of course also more money to develop the designs and the usability of them. And of course there is also a limited acceptability. These areas can't be used like in thousands, and we would have like really degraded areas already in mid cities because of the really intensive use in this last year, because people would really go out in large numbers on a regular basis, much larger than before. And there is the fourth thing, I think, is the question of services. Many people who really enjoy and love living in smaller towns, smaller villages, or out of central cities are deprived on services. And I'm not just talking about public services, really important, schools and health, but also, having a small shop for food, for buying food, having the post, having the bank really close, being able to go on a regular basis, not moving with cars and so on. These are the four areas that I would really love that we would, as a country, deal with the impacts of epidemic on them and try to, suck out some lessons we could bring into spatial planning and urban design to improve the quality of life, actually. Thank you.
Thank you, Maya. Thank you also for bringing this question of services into a discussion. There was a very interesting question by Tom Goose in the chat before when he said that it's not only the question of the infrastructure, but there's also an important question of the quality, I would say, of services. And I think that when we are measuring the accessibility to services, we are too often we're too often stuck with just measuring, let's say, the distance, either being geographical or being a time distance. But what we are not really taking into consideration is, on one hand, it's the quality of a service, but on the other, it's also the affordability of the service, because it's if you have, let's say, the best hospital in the world in your backyard, but you cannot afford yourself to be a patient in this hospital, it does not really help you that you're very close to service. But basically, it's not very useful for you. But so this brings me actually to the indicators, also how to monitor different policy, and how to monitor implementation of different policies and the outcomes of these policies in the certain territories. And I would here like to ask Janja Pečar. Janja, you were, as I said in the introduction, you also were involved into the preparation of several, let's say, reports on the regional development and so on. You also are very much involved into the monitor of the regional development. So can you just say how do you see, how can we use this quality of life targets and indicators that maybe also developed by this project to better monitor our policy implementation?
Thank you, Tomasz, for the question. Well, it is very difficult to measure quality of life because of its complexity and because of this personal attitude to the topic and so on. And I think that quality of life cannot be measured just by one indicator. In case of Slovenia's regions, for example, we have a set of 12 leading indicators within 12 areas, 12 domains of quality of life, and a part of 12 leading indicators, we have also a list of complementary indicators. All domains are also in accordance with the Slovenian development strategy. And these 12 domains are intertwined and they influence each other. And this is reflected in the overall quality of life in the region. And the set of indicators are proposed for monitoring the main goal of regional development policy, also through the regional development plans, which are in phase of preparation, as I mentioned. So the monitoring process of the policy implementation could start just after the adoption of these regional development plans. At the national level, the implementation of the Slovenian development strategy is also monitored yearly by the development report, and again with a set of indicators on different areas, domains of development. And I would mention just two things which I think is very important when we are looking and we are talking about indicators to monitor policy implementation and outcomes in a certain territory. Quality of life usually cannot be measured by the same indicator of all territorial levels. It can be measured on a level of domains which can include different indicators. That means that a benchmark, a comparison between regions cannot be made on the basis of indicators, but on the basis of domains. That is because of two reasons. The first reason is due to data gaps. So we heard already today that the availability of data at NAT3 level and lower is usually problematic. And the second reason is the fact that the problems at different territories are specific, and the indicators should be relevant to these differences. And the second important thing about measuring quality of life is also the fact that quality of life is a matter of personal sphere. That is why citizens should be involved in a process of setting goals, indicators for measuring these goals, and so on. And this could be realized also through some kind of participatory process and in the ESPON project, it is a citizen-centric approach which was used for such setting, for example, indicators. That's my view.
Thank you very much, Janja. You have mentioned this process of the regional development plans that are going to be prepared today. There is in parallel to this event, there also another event in Slovenia regarding the preparation the regional days, where also the discussion about these plans is going on. But regarding that, I would have just one small question to you. In addition, you said that the measuring of the quality of life should be actually set in the domain, and this for the accessibility to data, of course, needs to be taken into consideration. So, do you think that each regional development plan actually a set of indicators should be specifically designed, or we can have, let's say, some kind of an overall approach that through which you can actually measure how good are we in achieving the goals that you have set, let's say, for at regional level?
The set of indicators should be designed in accordance to the goals, and if we for comparison between different regions, we need to have the areas, the domains on which we are on which we can compare different indicators. I don't know if I'm understandable, but it is not the matter of a specific indicator. For example, on the domain of environment, in one region, the indicator of water is very important, but in other region, the air is more important because the air is polluted. So these are the differences.
This is also technically the issue that actually we can have different indicators at the very local level, as Janja said, to reflect the situation. And it's important, the citizen-centric approach, because beyond the risk of the rhetoric in using this term, we are thinking really to involve not all the citizens, but small groups of citizens in discussing what are the key aspects of quality that are important in that place. Then the method, the indicators, the composite index is such that at the level of domains, you can synthesize by standardizing the indicator and use scores. So you can compare not across the local level, across indicators which are different. You can compare apple with pear, but you can standardize and use the score in terms of what is the quality index at the level of domain. And then you can compare different regions, although achieving a score from one region is done in a way which is different from another region. But you can compare the scores at the level of domains.
Okay, thank you very much, Carl, also for this additional explanation. Harris has raised his hand. Harris, can you?
Well, I thought if you wanted a couple of specific examples of what you're discussing from Wales, I can offer you two things. One is in terms of engagement. There is an overall principle in the Act, involvement it's called, and this translates in various tools, mechanisms. So the individual local boards, the territorial boards use different methods. I've got two here. One is called Conversation with Our Communities, that they use some of them. The other is called Public Engagement Boards. They set up a mechanism for that. And although I was critical about the inconsistent use of the national Wales-wide indicators at the local level, I realize that what you're saying is a realistic assessment, that you need to adapt. So they have different sets of indicators for each of the local areas. Now, in the case of Cardiff, the capital city, there are 46 indicators. 20 have been taken from the national ones, and the other 26 have been set by the local partnership specifically for the needs there. They include, subjective indicators as well as objective ones. These are the examples I can offer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harris, for this interesting input. When we're talking about the, let's say, the indicators, we're also talking about the accounting practice of the territorial quality of life. And Carlo, you had mentioned, I think, in the project, you're proposing a creation of a kind of a measurement living labs. That's, I think, one of the recommendations of the projects.
Yes.
Can you be a bit more concretely and explain to us what actually can be understood under this name, the territorial quality of life living labs?
Okay, thank you for the question. Indeed, I was just mentioning the risk of being rhetoric into simply postulating a citizen-centric approach without thinking to concretely how to implement it. And so this territorial quality of life living labs accounting practice is exactly the way we imagine, as an end result of our research, we could develop this practice of citizens' involvement. Using, of course, also existing approaches. But basically, a living lab, you have imagined the involvement of small groups of people for to reflect to something. From the digital point of view, and thanks to the digital technology, you can imagine to do this with less cost than face-to-face meetings, because you can have also a kind of a meeting with a group of citizens to discuss the indicators that you are proposing according to the framework with them, what is important and what is not. This is one example of the kind of practice. But not only this, because I think it's very important when you want to engage the citizens, they are not there to solve the complex problem. I think that the intervention of Maya was very interesting in this. So what she said, Simonetti, I think, what she said, that the citizens can give power to spatial planning, because they, with their participation, they give more power. And it's important for the citizen to understand that it's not so much important the outcome of their contribution, but the process, the fact that they are there. And they can discuss the indicators, but it's also important that when you, in this living lab, involve the citizens, you start from their desires, you start from their needs and expectation stated in a qualitative way. A narrative of what they think is a good quality public space, for example. A narrative of what they think is a good quality of service nearby them. And then you start to think which indicators can be used to measure those expectations. So you can think to birds when you hear the birds when you wake up in the morning, for example. But really, I think that for practically involving the citizens, you need not to understate also the emotional aspects of giving them the possibility of telling what is quality of life for them, and then to elaborate what are the measurements that are needed, and to continue to involve them into the co-design, into the monitoring of these indicators, into the weighting of the indicators. And even if there are some cases where they can help to collect the data, they collect the data. The last important point that I think is connected to technology now and digital technology. Now we have solutions. There is the Decode project, for example, that has developed an open source attribute-based credential mechanism. Imagine that you go for the vote when you go to vote, you have an electoral certificate. No, you can imagine that in a place for a local election, the people that goes there can have a mechanism for having recognized their credential. Credential means their characteristic, age, anything, without the need to share their personal data, name, address, or this kind of things. No. So based on this credential, concretely participate into discussions and also voting and weighting of activities without having problem of solving problem of privacy, which are very relevant in this field. So this is just to give an example of the kind of implications that could have to develop this living lab practice. Having said that, at this stage, we are really at the beginning of an idea. It's an idea we can trigger, and we are thinking to develop such a pilot. Sandra Di Biagio mentioned to develop that in a spin-off project for the Slovenia and Croatia cross-border areas, and we can start to develop more concretely the design of it. And I think that the network can be developed if there are pilots that start to, in the territorial, considering also the territorial agenda 2030 pilots, start to use this approach. Right. Okay. I hope that
thank you.
Gave a more concrete idea.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have lost you for a few seconds in between. I know it's just a bad connection on my side or on your side. I hope that the participants were able to hear you well. But I think this goes very much in line also what Diana said before when talking about decisional spatial plans and about the goals and monitoring the goals. Actually, this has to go hand in hand. So let's say setting the goals, setting the objectives, setting the talking about the needs that people have, you know, and then later on basically add or maybe in a parallel add to this, let's say through these living labs, certain indicators, then also to measure, you know, how are we achieving the targets, as Sabine put into a chat, you know, to measure how much did we do, you know, how we do it, and at the end, is everyone better off with it? I think this is really important, that at the end of every such let's say a measuring exercise or a reporting exercise, we really can assess if we are as a society at the end better off. But in this regards, I would like to ask Janja just one more things. And do you have a kind of an idea, you know, how to support the creation of this territorial quality of life measurement labs in Slovenia? Do you think that there is a room that we could do it? Carlo mentioned this spin-off that might be also one part of an exercise, but there probably are also some other opportunities.
Well, I think that it is the opportunity in regional development agencies. They could be a sort of coordinate body together with maybe Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning and Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, and of course all other should be involved stakeholders, NGOs, relevant authorities, agencies, public-private bodies, I don't know. But I see as a coordinate body regional development agencies. That's from my view.
Yeah, thank you very much, Janja, for this. We almost came to the end of the time frame that we have, but there's like one very it's an interesting question that was posed in the chat. I don't know how to read the name because it's in Greek alphabet, but the question goes: should children's narratives for quality of life being embedded into territorial quality of life? I don't know. What do you think? Carlo, maybe you were, let's say, behind the methodology.
Okay, that would be a very nice way of complementing the measurement with the visions of the children. In that case, you should imagine to have a cooperation with the schools, for example, about that. I think it would be very important, especially because the young, we were thinking to the young students at university, especially to involve in this. But even, of course, when you involve the children, you will create the rules for the real future, no, for them, because you can imagine how children remain impressed in their mind the experience of participating in this kind of activity, for example. So yes, my answer would be in terms of complementing the measurement with other more qualitative approaches, which are very relevant altogether for orienting the policy better to the consideration of the needs and expectation of the citizens, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Carlo. I would then conclude, with this. It's a more positive, positive aspects, and yeah, for sure we all agree that we should involve not only children but also young people much more into our processes. I'm afraid that quite often they are not really, let's say, not that they are participating, but they're not really, they're not even invited to a process. And whenever we are talking about the future, actually we're talking about their future too. Well, I would now really like to thank you all for agreeing to being in this round table and to discuss this very interesting topic with us. I hope also that the audience is happy or satisfied, and that they have learned, I would say, or they have learned something new or heard something new, or maybe they can also maybe use this, hopefully in their, let's say, their thinking in their everyday practice. But yeah, I will stop now talking at this point, and I would now like to invite my colleague Blanca Bartol, just to, let's say, conclude and say a few words at the end of this roundtable. And Carlo, I think that you are then going to supplement her. Yeah, Blanca.